Welcome to the Podcalv. Last time I was mentioning how kidnapping or being kidnapped changed my life, and was like so traumatic, but at the same time it was like a blessing, right? So this is very funny because how it starts is basically with an invitation that I received from a group of women. They invited me to this conference they had, in which like I would speak about entrepreneurship and about like how to create a business, and so to a group of women who wanted like to start their own business. I went there. This was in 7 August Memorial. For the ones who know Nairobi, this is where the US Embassy used to be located, near or next to the Hilton Hotel in downtown. And as I was there, like I was just speaking and talking about all these things, blah blah blah. It was an amazing conference. I was very happy, and after I left the place, I was supposed to go and pick up my visa to go to South Sudan. In that days I was going around that days I was going to Juba, which I love, by the way. And being there, like I'm this random person, right? I'm a Colombian, so since I'm a Colombian, I love talking to people. I will speak like to a wall. I would speak to everything that I can speak. And I started talking to people. I remember how I met this guy, and we just like started talking and chatting and everything, interacting until we reached the point in which I asked him like, hey, so what do you do for a living? And then this guy tells me he's studying architecture, and he's actually about to finish his whole architecture thing. I was like, wow, that's so exciting. I'm actually an architect, and I would love to know more about what you do. So I said, okay, so if you want to know what I'm doing, I can you can come to my apartment, and I have like some of the models and blah blah blah. And I said, yes, why not? I mean, again, I'm a Colombian, so whenever somebody invites me to their home, I'm more than down for it, because that's our way to socialize. Like, we love meeting people, we love eating around a table, we love sharing with our family. That's our vibe. I went there. As soon as I arrived there, I remember that this guy said, let me come for the things. Like, he went there, I was seated. This was a very small room, had only a bed, a sofa, a sound system, and then like small kitchen. And as I was there, these other two guys come from the balcony of the place. The door was locked, so this guy come from the balcony of the place with a knife and start like threatening me and say like, take off all your clothes, take off everything, blah blah. So I had to take off everything, like everything. And I remember like how many people ask me like, hey, were you like, embarrassed or whatever, like of like taking off your clothes? No, I was not embarrassed. I'm a Colombian. Why should I be embarrassed about things? Like I was super happy of being like, in fact, because to me, in my culture, there's nothing wrong about like nudity or about like things like that. However, I was really nervous, and that's something that I never experienced in my life, especially because I thought that I made a new friend. Even I remember that I gave him one of my bracelets, because you remember I was traveling the world, like just doing super cool things. This was my first time in Kenya, my first time in Africa after coming from Ethiopia. And like 3 or 4 weeks before, I was being like mocked in Ethiopia. A guy stole my cell phone, they spat in my face and all these old things. So I was already like with some resent like from that thing. And this guy like just like rip off everything. Like they say, hey, where is the money? So on. I had like some cards there, including a white card, one of the white cards that you used to enter a building. And they asked me, what is this white card? And I said, this white card is for my, like, I made up this whole story, right? So I started saying like my whole storytelling abilities. This card is from my parents. They use it like to locate me, right? Like my parents, they work in the embassy of Colombia and so on. And so I made up a whole story, trying to make them nervous and like trying to like make them like desist of the whole thing. And I remember how they say, oh no, but we are not going to do anything to you or so on if you give us money. And I said, I don't have money, man. I'm a student. Like, again, like I have a baby face, right? Like I'm in the real life, I'm 31, but I have a baby face, so they will believe me that I'm a student. And I will say, I'm a student, I don't have money, I don't have anything. Like, I can't give you anything, man. So long story short, they hold me there for some more hours. They take my card. At the end, I ended up like giving them my card details. And one of them went to the bank, withdrew the money, came back, and like he said that he didn't find anything or anything like that. I knew that he stole my money. Like back in that moment, I knew immediately, right? I had some money also from Kazakhstan, and I had some money from Sudan, and they took everything they could from Sudan, from Kazakhstan, from wherever. Like in total, they took a lot of money. not a lot, like they were like, to me it was a lot of money. It was $500 back in that time. I didn't have money. That was the only money I had for traveling the world. And that was everything. It was in my pocket. And I remember how after that they told me that they will take me to another space. And the reason why that happened is because when this guy comes back, they close the lock against the door, and I tried to scream, but I mean, nothing happened. So the gatekeeper from the building comes like to knock the door to try to check if something is happening or if everything is all right. And I was like, okay, I thought that he was coming to say, but this guy said, no, everything is right, blah, 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 blah. So they took me again. They put me inside a car. They removed my clothes. And I remember how we were like just like going. I think that now that I know a bit Nairobi, I think that we were going like outskirts of Nairobi. But then, thanks to Wayaki Way and the constructions, we ended up like in traffic. And I remember how in the moment when I was in traffic, I said like, it's now or never, because I don't know what's going to happen with me after this thing. So I started screaming, right, like in Spanish, of course, because this is the only way how people like will understand that I'm probably in trouble. So I started screaming, nobody would listen, and so on and so on. In the middle of, or like in the middle of that situation, a guy from the next car starts like with a hook, like, right, what's going on, blah, blah, blah. These guys like were trying to pretend that they were ignoring him and nothing's happening. And at some point, this guy comes out of the car and he's like, what's going on? So I did what I could, and I just escaped from the car. I went like and started running like half naked, and here like nearby in Wayaki Way. And it was a whole crazy thing. I ended up like entering to a hospital. There is an Aga Khan hospital nearby here. So I ended up like entering to the hospital, being there. I was there for about like 1 hour or something. But by the way, like long story short, because of this whole story of my parents and so on, this guy never took my cell phone or my cards or so on, because the whole plan was like to make it look like nothing happened to me, right? So I just came back to the hospital. I just was in the hospital. I was just in the hospital and was so scared and so on. My cell phone was discharged like with no battery. I remember how I managed to text a friend, her name is Grace, to tell her, hey, you know what happened? They told me, blah, blah, blah. I managed to text another friend, her name is Mona. By the way, Mona is in Sudan now. Hi, Mona. And they just tried to guide me, but my cell phone went off. Remember, I was like 2 days in Nairobi only. 5 days in Nairobi only. So I didn't know like where the things were. So in that moment, what I did was to try to use my architecture abilities and to try to like find my own way, right, to the place where my friends were staying. They were the ones who were hosting me. I was staying with my friends from the Embassy of Colombia. And I arrived there. When I arrived there, like I was like just destroyed, right? Like I managed somehow to get like some of my things and so on, of course, my shirt and the things I had. And I was like just scared, shaking, crying, everything. And what comes after that is a whole telenovela. I had to go back because of my friends from the embassy saying, no, we're going to help you to solve this whole situation. They took me back to where I was, to where I was held. And thanks to Google Maps, I knew where I was held, everything that was happening and so on. Like the Google Maps like records it. If you don't know, Google Maps tracks everything you do. So you can check my routes and you will see, if you have a partner, by the way, and you want to know where they were, you can do this thing. You can check Google Maps and you search my routes. And they will tell you where they were at what time and what things they do. That's super cool. By the way, if you have doubts, this is a good tool. Lol, whatever happened is that I was in the whole thing. I checked Google Maps. I went there. We went with my friends from the embassy, and the attorney called a group of detectives. The police comes, everybody, like a whole telenovela, 5 people. Like they put me a coat, they put me glasses and everything to go and recognize the place. 2 in the morning, my friend receives a call that one of the guys was captured, but this guy was saying that he was my friend, and that I just came there like out of my own will, and that I was never stolen, and so on and so on. So the whole investigation started. Then thankfully, my bank like managed to access the ATM and everything and so on, and actually saw the guy withdrawing the money with my card, with everything, like managed to identify everything. And then at the end of the day, I had to go to this kind of like police station where they have, or where they hold the guys. And you know, like how you see in the movies that you have to identify people through a mirror. Well, that's not in the real life. At least that's not where I went. Like where I went, I had to enter to a room and there were like 15 guys standing, and I had to point the guy and to say, this is the guy. So imagine how scared I was, that I was like, I have to point this guy. What if this guy goes out tomorrow or something like that? Effectively, that guy went out after a week. After a week as well, I left Kenya. I left Kenya in part because of that, because I was super scared and I didn't know what to do. I remember how like for 2 months I was so traumatized. But here's the thing, and here's the bright side of the story. The reason why I come back to Nairobi, or the reason why I'm back in Nairobi, is because you can't just think that this is happening out of casualty or because of people are bad. People are not bad. And especially us, like, we are from the global south, and it's a region where most of our reference, like, we've been told that our people are not good people, right? Like, and that's not a secret for us. Like, everybody hears how in the movies, in the series, everywhere, like, everybody portrays us, black people, Latino people, and people from the global south as black people. Like, if we are black or if we are Latino or if we are whatever thing, we have to be criminals. We have to be this thing. We have to be that thing. Imagine somebody who is growing under certain circumstances in which the only information they have, the only education they receive is from the internet or the social media or whatever they see in those series. They grow up with that idea of a role model, and they grow up with that idea that we can't be better than that. That's the whole point. The whole point is that somehow the Western media and the Western productions and the Western entertainment, whatever thing, tends to portray us as people who are not good enough, who are bad, who are not even enough humans, like what happened with the UK, and when they started this whole law that would say that black people were only 3/4 of humans. And this is what they grow with. So it's not justifying them, but it's somehow finding a reason why they might be taking that path. So what's our work? Or what's the thing that we should do? What's the work that we should do? Well, basically to create a platform in which we raise and showcase different role models. We can't be in a society in which we still believe that because of we are black or because of we are Latino, because of we are queer or because of we are whatever, we can't access to the same things that other people, that the white guy who comes from the global north, you know how easy it is from some people who don't recognize their own privilege, that they come from some regions and they just come with everything they need. Like, the only thing that you need sometimes to succeed in life is to be born in the right place. And that's something so bad, because yet they still don't recognize how many good things we've given to the world. So my belief is that if we can actually create a company in which we can showcase different role models and tell different stories about who we are as a black generation or as a Latino generation, as a queer generation, we can set different role models that can now talk to that generation in a way that they can understand. That's the first thing that came out of that. And it's like a whole commitment, right? A whole vote of saying, or a whole like decision of saying, hey, I'm not going to stand for all the bullshit that I'm listening from the global north, like saying that we are not enough, that we are not good, that we can't do things. I'm going to do things differently. That's the second thing, and it's Nairobi's a statement. And it's a statement not because of I'm here, it's a statement because of this city is vibrant. This city is amazing. This country, Kenya, is one of the most incredible countries that I've been in my whole life. And people here are generally good. People here are generally like, people trust people. Like, there is this whole culture of trusting. There is this whole culture of sharing. There is this whole culture of interacting that you will not find easily in other places, right? And that's the thing that you need to rescue. You just need to double check and to see things deeply. And the third thing is that at the end of the day, I was in the wrong place at the wrong moment, and sometimes we need to take responsibility for that type of things. There's nothing wrong with being kind, but it's much better to not only be kind but also like inform yourself better and make sure that you get to know people better before taking decisions about people. Don't ignore people. Don't look people like under your shoulder. Don't make people feel bad, but inform yourself. Make sure that you have enough information about who is your friend, about who is somebody, because it doesn't happen only in this time where you are meeting people for the first time. Sometimes it happens when you met someone like for a long time. So if you can inform yourself and if you can have more information about someone, just take that decision and do it. And I would like to finish like just saying that here's the thing. We always have a decision as a generation of thinking that we just like perpetuate the same things that people have been telling about us, or we take decisions or like just face reality. The hardest conversation we can have, and that's for the next episode, is a conversation with ourselves about who we are and about what we do and about what we want for the world. That's a conversation that we run away from, and that's why we ended up taking or doing things that are not good for us.